From the blind eternities to your favorite local game store, welcome to Planeswalker Radio, your ultimate source for all things Magic the Gathering. Whether you're slinging spells at Friday Night Magic, brewing the perfect deck, or just diving into the lore of the multiverse, we've got you covered. Join us as we explore the latest set releases, wild deck techs, and the stories behind the cards we love. So grab your deck, shuffle up, and get ready to ignite your spark, because this is Planeswalker Radio. Here at Planeswalker Radio, we love turning cardboard sideways and slinging spells, and it's important to us that the place we choose to do that is fun, relaxed, and professional. That's why we choose to buy our cards and accessories at First Player. Their showroom staff in Calgary, Alberta are some of the best in the business with decades of experience. They're always able to help us and members of the community find exactly the correct cards to add to our latest decks. Don't live in Calgary, Alberta? Not to worry, they ship Canada-wide. Check out their website at firstplayer.ca for Magic the Gathering, Pokemon, Lorcana, and the accessories to protect your cards. First Player, the heart of the gaming community in the heart of Calgary, Alberta. Find their website link in the description below. Don't go anywhere, the show is about to begin.
Hello there, nerds. Welcome to another episode of Planeswalker Radio. I'm here with my co-host, John.
Technically, I'm here with my co-host, Lee.
Well, we're co-hosts, so
Look
that's
at
how
that.
that works.
Yep.
All right, guys. Today we are talking about an exciting topic, the new release of Tarkir Dragonstorm. Ooh la la. Yeah.
This is... So we're technically a week late with this. Technically. Because it came out last week. But we kind of wanted to give the set time to marinate and let us actually play around with it and test it to see what we thought.
Yeah, we've been able to
before
play
we
all
gave our
5
opinions.
decks now as well,
Yeah,
which is nice. So,
exactly.
you know, we've had some time with it. You guys have had some time with it. Let's dive into it and do a bit of a set review here. Starting with returning cast of cards.
Yeah, so this was, when we were doing the research for this, I realized that there's a whole bunch of characters who were in previous sets, right? Mostly the previous Tarkir sets, that they brought back, but in new, refreshed ways to make it so that the characters and the setting of Tarkir itself is really evolving. Now there's a whole bunch of them, and a lot of them
Like
actually got,
20.
yeah, it's so many. A lot of them got multiple cards, right? So like Zergo got a couple different cards. Sarkhan, I'm pretty sure, got a couple different cards. Like a lot of them got doubled up on, where it's the same named character, but with different kind of versions of them. So you have different abilities and different options when you're
Different
using
play
these
styles
characters.
for some of the more loved characters out of the set, right?
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I mean, in that list, we've got people like Elspeth Stormslayer, like John said, a couple of Zergos, Zergo Thunder's Decree and Zergo Stormrender. We've got Tygam, Master Opportunist, Narset. But some of our favorites include Elsha, the Threefold Master. She got a fancy new reprint. Looks good. Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean,
this one's fantastic. I mean, she's a blue, a red, and a white for a 1/1 legendary Jin monk with trample and prowess. And normally you'd be like, this is kind of a weird thing, especially since the previous version of Elsha that we saw was kind of a peeking at the top and playing off the top. This one is whenever she deals combat damage to a player, create that many 1/1 monk creature tokens with prowess. So now they're taking it from just being the traditional red blue, where you see a lot of prowess, a lot of that spell slinging play styles, and they're adding in the white part of it, where white is very dominant with tokens, and they like to have a wide board state. So they've really, really beautifully blended the two play styles together to kind of really enhance the way Elsha can work, and at the same time really represent what that color scheme is supposed to do. It's really exciting.
I really enjoy the prowess keyword as well. I think that's just a fun mechanic. Yeah.
Yeah.
Next up on our list, we got Sarkhan, Dragon Ascendant. Sarkhan is a one generic, one red for a 2/2 human druid creature. To behold the dragon, choose a dragon you control or reveal a dragon from your hand. So realistically, you're going to have a dragon somewhere, either in your hand or on the field. You're almost always going to be able to behold and get yourself that treasure token.
Yeah.
Nice small piece of ramp. And then whenever a dragon you control enters, put a 1/1 on Sarkhan. Until the end of turn, Sarkhan becomes a dragon in addition to its other types and gains flying. That's a really cool transformation mechanic. Kind of makes me feel like it's almost werewolfy, but like not.
But done
Done
better.
better.
Yeah,
Yeah,
'cause
yeah.
the werewolf mechanic is really like I have a soft spot in my heart for them. Still have my werewolf deck, but man, if it was done like this, it'd be a lot better.
Actually playable.
Yeah, it would be. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
absolutely,
Then we
absolutely.
got
Sidisi.
Sidisi.
Yeah, Sidisi, Regent of the Mire. It's a generic and a black for a 1/3 zombie snake warlock in a legendary creature, which
Let's
is
put a couple more keywords on there.
yeah,
Yeah.
really. They just took that tight bar and crammed as many words as they could
Yeah.
right into it. My lord. It's a tap ability on this one. Tap, sack a creature you control with mana value X, other than Sidisi. Return target creature card with mana value X +1 from your graveyard to the battlefield. Activate only as a sorcery.
Very cool recursion piece.
This is crazy.
Yeah.
This is so easy to push into an infinite combo,
So easy.
right?
Yeah.
There's so many cards where you can make it so you can just tap it on tap CDC,
Yeah.
right? And if you're doing things like you're tapping, you're sacking a creature, you're pulling back another creature, and then you loop those two creatures, things like Gary and Runescar Demon, right? You're flipping those guys around or something like that.
Yep.
And you're, going and finding the card you need, and then going and pinging everybody for a whole bunch of damage, and then going and finding the card you need. Like, there's so many crazy things that you can do with this. The like you see they attempted to balance it by making it a 1/3, so it's a little bit squishy,
A
but
little bit. But I mean, they still gave it lots of life.
but
Like, it's not going to swing out. You're never going to swing with this creature anyway.
yeah,
Like,
right.
yeah.
For 2 mana reanimated on a stick, it's
Can't,
wild.
can't be mad at it at
Yeah.
all. What do we got next here? Serac Elusive Hunter. Um, First of all, spell can't be countered. I guess I should say he's a human warrior. So I mean, he just looks cool. His art is funky.
He looks
He looks really
amazing.
cool.
Yeah.
Spell can't be countered. Always nice to see that. Green seems to do that a lot. I'm finding there's a lot of green cards that have it. I either can't be countered or can't be targeted by blue or things like that. I'm finding that a little bit
Y-
more frequently now.
Yeah, they're starting, like, as we're kind of observing the format evolve right now, we're starting to see green do a lot of things where it just focuses on protecting itself, trying to get itself out and moving before other colors that traditionally would control or
Yeah,
immediately remove or anything that can
yeah.
do anything.
Yeah, it gives it that momentary protection piece because, as we all know, green takes a little bit longer to get off the ground. I mean, they've got more ramp than any other color, but their creatures are big, so they need it. So not being able to counter something just on the card is nice. Trample, 4/3. Whenever a creature you control or a creature spell you control becomes the target of a spell or ability an opponent controls, draw a card. So it's card draw, so it's uncounterable when it comes in, and then it's card draw if someone tries to destroy it or anything else on your board.
Hmm.
I mean that's just built-in card draw ramp. Like, I'm not mad at that at all.
Yeah, this is a crazy political piece, I think, right? Because you have a couple different interactions you could take, right? You put it in now, it forces your opponent to either interact with it, remove it,
Yeah,
which gives you cards, which is resources, which is typically a bad thing to give green, right? You don't really want to do that.
green doesn't need any more resources.
Exactly, right? On
Yeah,
the flip side, you put it out and they choose to not interact with it, and it allows you to start building up that board state and become a real threat, right?
yeah,
So that this card really poses both sides of it and makes
yeah.
an incredibly political table.
Yeah, realistically, for me, it's the any creature you control piece.
Yeah.
Because if you don't interact with this card directly, you're now basically blocked from interacting with anything else
Mhm.
until you do.
Mhm.
And like you said, that's card draw
Yeah.
immediately. So
Yeah. So on top of putting out a whole bunch of old characters with new cards,
mhm.
they decided that Tarkir just needed a ton of new characters as well.
Yeah, some key pieces. We already talked about a few, but some key pieces that came out here. We've got Eshki Teemer's Roar. That's another pre-con commander. Um, 2/2 human warrior, green, blue, red. So obviously in Teamer colors. What a surprise!
Whoa
Phantom
there.
Domain. Holy moly! This card is incredible. I mean, we played against this card, saw it in action. Unfortunately, the deck didn't really go off as well as it could have,
Hmm.
but even at a base level, this card is awesome.
Yeah.
And let me tell you why. Um, so Teamer, we like big creatures, we like doing burn damage, and we like stopping other people from stopping us from doing that. This card is a snowball. It You have it out on the field. Whenever you cast a creature spell, you put a 1/1 counter on her. Okay, super handy. If you cast a spell with power 4 or greater, you draw a card. We were just talking about this. Green doesn't need card draw. Here it is. There it is, right there, built into the commander.
Yep.
Um, if it's 6 or greater, you're dealing damage to an opponent or all your opponents. Yeah, nice. Equal to her power. So this is a tiered effect. You play a creature, you put a 1/1. If that creature happens to be 4 power, you're also drawing a card. If that creature happens to be 6 power, you're now putting a 1/1, drawing a card, and dealing damage. So it's just instantly doing more effects than most cards do with a triplet.
Yeah. Yeah. I absolutely. And there's again, this is such an abusable card. The amount of cards out there like Atali that lets you steal creatures and then play them without paying their mana cost
Yeah,
or cast them without paying their mana
yeah.
cost, right? Like you might get lucky and pull something out that's a 6+ and be like, oh well, by accident, I've now done 6 damage, drawn a card, and added a 1/1 counter to Eshki.
Yeah.
You didn't even do anything.
And that's not even talking about those cheap creatures. Green is full of mana dorks
Yeah.
that are 1 mana creatures. That's still ticking a 1/1 onto your commander at that
Yeah.
point.
Yeah.
So you can build her power very quickly
Yeah.
and then start putting out your big stuff and start getting card draw and start getting your passive damage dealt. Fellothar.
Yeah, but so we picked out. There's two Fellothars. We picked out Fellothar the Steadfast to talk about on this one. So he is a generic, a white, black, and a green for a 0/5 human warrior legendary creature. Text on him says each creature you control assigns combat damage equal to its toughness rather than its power. Which, before we go on, is fantastic because this is exactly the same colors as Dorn the Siege Tower,
Okay.
who does exactly the same thing. He assigns combat damage equal to toughness instead of power. Okay. He
Gotcha.
stops there. He
Yeah.
flat stops.
Oh,
There's
okay.
no extra text. Okay. We continue with Fellothar. Creatures you control can attack as though they didn't have defender.
That opens up walls.
Yeah, there's a whole.
Literally.
Oh my
Get
goodness, literally,
it?
yeah. Oh my lord. This is just straight amazing. And then you have his ability on top of that. Granted, it's 3 mana and a tap, so it's a little bit resource intensive there.
Yeah.
But sacrifice another creature, draw cards equal to the sacrificed creature's toughness, then discards equal to its power. Now, the entire deck, whether you're using the precon for this or you're building your own, should all be low power, high toughness. You should always be benefiting off of that.
Yeah.
On top of that, it's got black in it, so it's not necessarily that you're sacrificing the creature and it's permanently gone. You can probably go and
Probably
get
get
it
it back.
back if you
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. I really enjoy this idea. I've never really played with a what we like to call the big butts deck.
Yeah.
I've never really played with one of those, but watching it play the other day was really fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's really I love this deck.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Like, and all these where they're a commander and all that, and the precons, like the precons obviously come at a two, but all these commanders are more than capable of piloting or running decks behind them that are 3s and 4s.
Absolutely.
They're absolute
Yeah.
powerhouses here.
Yeah. Absolutely. Next we got Codis the Fangkeeper. So this is the secondary version of Codis as well. Um, Yeah. So one generic, black, blue, and green for a 2/1 zombie warrior. Um, cool looking card. I like the
Yeah.
artwork on it, but more importantly, I like the fact that it's indestructible. I like that.
I mean, on a one toughness creature, it just brings me back to like Hosky, where you're like, I have this tiny little annoying creature that you're never gonna get rid of.
Yeah, it's
Like,
just there.
it's
Have
hilarious.
fun. So yeah, indestructible is the keyword. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player, exile the top X cards of their library. So you're milling other people. X is the amount of damage dealt. You may cast any number of spells with mana value X or less from among them without paying their mana cost. So we talked briefly about Atali a little bit ago. This is essentially Atali targeted,
Yeah,
and being able to pay without paying the mana cost is really nice as well.
yeah,
You put a couple 1/1s on this, and all of a sudden you're stealing people's creatures, you're stealing people's
yeah,
artifacts. It
yeah.
doesn't really matter what you pull off. You're gonna get something and play it for free. And congratulations, you now have board state made up of not your cards.
I mean, yeah. And like, there's so many ways to play this, right? All three of the colors that are involved here lend themselves really well to the tactic of building up one creature and putting them in, whether it's Voltron, all right,
Yeah.
which you can get out of all of those colors.
Yeah,
Or you use blue to do the unblockable things. Blue has a lot of unblockable. You use
totally.
green to pick up trample. You use black to pick up death touch menace.
Yeah,
There's so many ways to force Codus through to make sure that you're getting your triggers. And like you said, right, putting like 1/1 counter strategies or anything like that on top of it to make it so that you're really capitalizing off those. It's incredible.
Nariv.
Yeah, moving on to Nariv Crackling Vanguard. This one is really up my alley. I really like it, and I like the colors that it's in here. So it's two generic, a red, a white, and a black for a 4/4 Spirit Dragon. Again, a legendary creature. Just to start to make it good, 5 mana for a 4/4 flying death touch is good.
Flying Death Touch should not be allowed.
Like, yeah, it's just it's absolutely silly, and like so just that makes it so that it's worth it, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Whenever or when Nerev enters, create 2 red 1/1 goblin creature tokens. Great, fantastic. It's probably only going to happen once, maybe twice.
yeah,
We're not worried about it. It's just to help get things starting to
yeah,
roll,
yeah.
right? Whenever Nariv attacks, exile a number of cards from the top of your library equal to the number of differently named tokens you control. During any turn you attacked with your commander or with a commander,
Yeah.
doesn't have to be your own commander,
Yeah,
which is really wild because I don't think there's any cards that really do that. Anywho, when during any turn you attacked with a commander, you may play those cards. Now, importantly to note, you do still have to pay the mana cost on them to be able to
yes,
do it.
yeah. It's not mana
Uh,
cheating.
yeah,
There is no tax fraud here.
no. But what I do like is it essentially what it's doing is it's hiding second hand in exile,
Yeah,
right? So there's like because it's in exile, everybody can see it, but now they're worrying about what's in exile instead of what's actually in your hand. And on the flip side, maybe you don't have anything in your hand, but you have stuff in exile. Even if they know it's coming, they're not going to be able to interact with it until you decide that you're going to use it.
yeah. Exile
Right?
is the safest place on the board.
It really
It
is. It's
really
kind
is.
of wild, right? So being able to play from exile, and then again, like these colors love playing from exile, right? So
Yep.
again, the flavor is great, but also the power is really great. I don't think it's quite up there with like what Eshki is doing. Eshki is just value for playing the deck. This is going to require a little bit more strategy, but
Yeah.
I still think it's
I,
fantastic.
I I like this for the fact that you can play the exile cards whenever.
Yeah,
Like it's not a one turn limit. Like a lot of playing from exile is a one turn limit,
yeah,
whereas this is just if your commander has attacked or if a commander has attacked,
yeah,
you can play those cards.
yeah,
So to your point, it is entirely a secondary hand because you're not losing those cards at the end of the turn if you didn't cast them.
yeah,
It makes it a very, very good, and I mean it's 5 mana, but it makes it a good
yeah,
early
yeah.
gameplay as well to get some cards out.
And actually, now that I think about it, it's a fantastic political piece again, right? Because maybe you exile a board like
Yep.
and you're like, leave me alone, or I'm gonna wipe the board,
Yep.
right? Or you're holding a piece of powerful removal, a swords or something like that. You're like,
Yeah.
leave me alone, or I'm
It's there. You
like,
know it's there. Yeah.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
Really good political piece.
Yeah. Moving on to Shiko and Narset Unified. This is another one of the commanders off of the pre-cons. 4/4 human spirit dragon. I like a dragon with 5 eyes. I'm about it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's 5 eyes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Flying Vigilance and Flurry. Whenever you cast your second spell each turn, copy that spell if it targets a permanent or player, and you may choose new targets for the copy. If you don't copy a spell this way, you draw a card. So a little bit of a strategic play. This is the deck that I played in our game of pre-cons that we tried the other day. A little bit strategic in how you play this deck. Obviously, being your second spell has to be a targeted spell
Mm-hmm.
if you want to be doing the storm thing. But I quite enjoyed playing it. I'm not much of a spell slinger fan, so it was probably the wrong deck for me to try piloting. But you know, it was fun. I enjoyed playing, you know, and really having to plan out my turns to make sure
Mm-hmm.
I'm using sorceries and instants in the right place. And I mean, I know we're not talking about the deck right now, we're talking about the card, but in the deck, there was a lot of doubling your effects. Other fun things with Shiko and Narset, it is in any turn. The second spell you play, you get to double. So this is really beneficial for instants. You know, pieces of removal that you want to. There's a problem piece out on the board and it's swinging at you. You can play a quick instant and then a removal piece, and then get rid of a couple of things that are swinging at you rather than just one. So I like things like that. Again, not really my cup of tea for a deck that I play, but
Y-
fun.
Yeah, I like that it has the built-in resources though, the built-in card draw. So even if you're like, I'm just gonna cast a spell, I don't need it to be copied, but I only have two cards in hand. This is one of those kind of strategies where you need to have three or four cards in hand to be able to make sure that you're hitting your first card and then your copy spell as
Yeah,
well,
yeah.
right? So it's got the built-in resource generation specifically so that you don't run out of gas. Taval the Balance Scale
My favorite dragon that came out.
is a generic, a black, a green, and a blue for a 4/4 flying spirit dragon. Again, a legendary creature. His text is whenever Taval attacks, mill 3 cards, then you may return a land card from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. Whenever one or more cards leave your graveyard, create a 2/2 black zombie druid creature token. I think, especially in landfall strategies,
Yeah,
Taval is gonna outshine a lot of things, right? It reminds me a little bit of when you see like Muldrotha or something like that
yeah,
get played, where
yeah,
they're really pulling permanents out and all that.
yeah.
It's a little bit more targeted than that, right? You might also see something like the Gitrog monster, just with slightly better colors here, I think, really play into that strategy.
Totally.
Yeah, yeah, I
I
really
I
like it.
I enjoy Taval as not necessarily a replacement for AZ for me, because AZ is one of my favorite cards out there for landfall right now. But it's just a different flavor almost. So you're
Yeah,
still playing 2 lands a turn with this, hopefully,
yeah,
and I enjoy the extra token gen. The big thing for me that happens with this is when it's in a deck with a lot of reanimation, which the precon is,
hmm,
you are reanimating more than one thing a turn, which means you are creating more than one zombie druid a turn. You can get a big board state going very quickly,
yeah,
and I quite enjoy that.
yeah.
Yeah,
I do like it. The only thing that I'm on the fence about on this one is how fast it's gonna run out of steam, right? I feel like it at a certain point it'll hit, and like reanimator decks in general have this issue, but because he's a land-based one, at a certain point he's going to have so much mana and then run out of things either in the graveyard to be pulling out or run out of reanimation cards to pull things that he needs out of the grave.
yeah,
Um, so a well-built Taval will really shine out at a table. I think
yeah.
he's a very strong commander, and
Very strong.
even just the built-in ramp that he has, where it's like you're playing your land for turn, but then he's allowing to pull a second one out, and then he's giving you a token at the same time,
Yeah,
shooting that ramp of protection. It's really strong,
yeah.
really strong.
Very strong. Ureni, the song Unending, is expensive. This is a 5 generic green, blue, red for a 10/10 spirit dragon. So expensive, but big. This guy here has built-in protection, which I always love built-in protection. So protection from white and black, um, the two biggest removals, I would say.
Yeah,
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 two biggest removal colors in the entire game. So you probably it's not going anywhere, most likely. Um, when it enters, it deals X damage divided as you choose among any number of target creatures and or planeswalkers your opponents control, where X is the number of lands you control. Woof. I mean, in an ideal world, you have at least 8 lands when you're casting this. Probably more
yeah,
because, you know, it's kind of an end game piece, which means you're dealing 8 damage, just targeting whatever you want.
It's another one where if you play it just right, really abusable,
Yeah,
really abusable.
yeah,
Right, the thing that comes to mind is like Collective Voyage.
totally. Play
Right.
a collective voyage and then slap this out.
Yeah,
Ooh,
right.
yeah.
You just try and sweet talk people into being like, oh, just throw like 2 mana in, just throw 3 mana in, right?
I mean, to be fair, collective voyage, you never have to sweet talk anybody.
Yeah, everybody just wants to
Everybody
go.
just
Yeah, yeah,
all of their mana,
yeah.
collective voyage.
Everybody just dumps into it and
Yeah,
agrees to play nice for a turn. There, you Collective Voyage and all that. You let it go around for a turn, and then or Rennie comes out for 16 or 20 or whatever,
yeah.
and yeah,
You're
right.
taking off an entire board state. You're taking down the problem planeswalker that's in the way. You're taking down
Is
really
it
whatever you
is
want.
it just target target
Target
creatures?
creature or
Yeah.
planeswalker.
So this is a really interesting version of a board wipe.
Yeah,
Um, that it's probably a one-time use, but
yeah.
then once you're done, you're left with a 10/10
A 10
flyer
10
with for a
flyer.
white black.
Yeah, reprints. Lots,
Y-
lots of reprints.
Yeah, yeah, and specifically not just reprints of just regular commons and all that kind of stuff, because you kind of expect that,
Yeah,
right? This is just a ton of reprints of named characters, right? Like, and there's some notable ones in here, right? Like the ones that
Ob Nixilis.
Obnixilus
Phew.
and Adeline Resplendent Cathar, right?
Yeah,
Both the Dragon Lords, Dragon Lord Atarka and Dragon Lord Dracoma,
yeah.
right?
Well, one of my personal favorites, Jared, the Golgari Lich Lord,
Yeah,
comes in the on the Sultai Precon, and
yeah,
just a phenomenal card. I mean,
yeah.
so much value
But
there.
it makes me happy to see some of these reprints because it is also going to help with bringing a lot of these cards and play styles into a more affordable range, so that
Yeah,
we'll start to see more people playing it. I
absolutely.
don't think any of these were particularly high in price. I don't think they were like super expensive, but the extra reprint really does help to break it down into a
Yeah,
playable
and
playable
I think
range.
it makes them more accessible as well.
Yeah.
Not even from a cost standpoint, but from a just availability standpoint.
Yeah.
Having more of these cards out in the world is never a bad thing.
Yeah. I agree. 100%.
New and returning mechanics. We'll touch on this relatively briefly here because a lot of these mechanics are already known.
Yeah, we'll start with Endure here because
Yeah,
this one's a known one. Right. So the way Endure works, you have keyword and then a number. It creates 1/1 counters or 1/1 spirit tokens equal to whatever the number is. Um, and then in addition, there's kind of like an errata. I don't know if it's a errata or a ruling that happened on it, but there's an additional piece that goes on. If the Endure triggers and the 1/1 counter is impossible due to the permanent not being on the battlefield or something like that, it automatically defaults to the token. You don't get the option for the 1/1 counter. Right? It's pretty common. It's there's a lot of mechanics that are very similar to it. Um, yeah, we don't
I
spend much time on that.
I like the option of either building board state or building one creature up
Yeah,
on the board. Yeah,
yeah.
I
Right.
enjoy that.
Option of upper wide is great.
Yeah, yeah. Next up is Flurry. We talked about this briefly with Shiko and Narset. Trigger written effect when controller's second spell is cast per turn. Um, Written effect in Shiko's case is double that spell, but lots of different utility for this.
Yeah, it pops up in a whole bunch of places, and it was really just a way for them to add a triggered effect
Yeah,
on things. Right? It's just saying, hey, instead of a specific thing happening now, it's when your second spell is cast. Now you have a triggered effect.
yeah,
Renew has a written effect trigger on it when the cost is paid. Um, right? All renew abilities will use exile as a part of the cost that is to be paid to trigger the effect. Um, and typically, it'll add +1/+1 counters in addition to any other effects that it can be given, right? So you'll have maybe it'll have a little bit of mana involved, and then exile card. It'll give whatever has that +1/+1 counters, and then maybe an added effect as well. In addition, it can only be sorcery speed. You can't do this at instant speed. So you can't be like, oh, on your end step, I'm going to trigger my renew. It doesn't work like that.
yeah. Mobilize. Keyword with a number. Triggers on attack, so it's an attack-based trigger. Creates a 1/1 soldier token equal to the number. Tapped and attacking. Tokens created this way sack at the beginning of the next end step. Um, I mean, it's just a way to get more things going through the board.
If you have a Goblin Bombardment or not a Goblin Bombardment, a Warstorm Surge, where having
Yeah.
creatures come
Token
in,
ETB.
yeah,
Yeah.
where you just don't care if they stick around. You just want them to hit the battlefield, and then
Yeah.
if they sack, doesn't matter. It's really good for stuff like that.
Yeah. It sounds like a very red keyword.
It is a very red keyword, I think.
Harmonize.
Harmonize. So harmonize is you'll only ever see it be used as a cast from the grave. And it'll have a cost included in there. You can reduce the cost, however, by tapping creatures. The amount that is reduced is equal to the power, right? So an example of this would be like if you have 4 generic and a green, and you tap a creature with 3 power, it becomes 1 generic and a green for the
Cool mechanic. Behold a dragon. Additional cost requirements. Choose a dragon you control or reveal one from your hand. Pay Behold a dragon cost. I mean, it's a dragon release. You're probably going to have some dragons somewhere. Congratulations.
Yeah. It's literally like we saw it on Sarkhan earlier.
Yeah.
You behold the dragon, you get a treasure, right? There's a whole bunch where it's like you behold the dragon, you draw a card. You behold the dragon, you do this. It's
Behold some dragons, people.
but
Behold them.
yeah, behold the dragon.
Surveil. Returning mechanic. Seen this one significantly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I'm a big fan of Surveil now. I like especially in reanimator decks. Surveil is just fantastic. This is basically scrying. You look at the top, however many cards depends on what like Surveil 3. You look at the top 3 cards, and you can put them back in any order, or you can put them in the grave, right?
Super good for reanimator decks.
Yeah, it's card selection, it's top deck manipulation, it's filling resources all at the same time. It's phenomenal.
Yeah.
I really love it.
Yeah. Last but not least, Omen. Cast for Omen cost. After the cast, the card shuffles back into the library. Basically just recycling. I doubt it.
Typically as well, omens are all on creature cards as well, right? So you
Oh,
have
are
a
they?
dragon,
Gotcha.
and then it's like the adventure sorceries, but instead they're
Oh, okay.
omen sorceries.
Yeah.
And the flavor behind it was really
Yeah.
cool because they were like, yeah, we want the sorcery to be like the omen that the dragon is coming, and then like maybe you'll hit it when you draw it later. You can cast the dragon.
Yeah.
You can also just keep casting the omen and keep shuffling it back in if you want. It's a really interesting mechanic.
Yeah. All right. Moving on to the top 12 cards that we feel, at least, are the top 12 cards in the entire set. This is where we're basically winding down here, boys and girls. So let's buckle in for the last few minutes of this podcast and get started with Ugin.
Yeah. I just want to clarify real quick. Like you said, these are our top 12. I spent like 6 hours looking through everybody's top lists, and there's only 2 cards that are consistently on every list, and it's the first 2 that we're going to go over. Everything else is just it's clear that people's play styles are really showing through on this set. So this is what we love, and by no means will this fall into line of what anybody else in the community is saying.
And to be fair, the fact that everybody is different on this actually makes me think that they nailed this set pretty much perfectly.
I agree.
Starting with Ugin.
Ugin, Eye of the Storms.
Ugin.
This is one of the 2 that everybody just universally agrees it should be in the top 10 most of the time, occupying the 1 or 2 slot. We're not doing it in any order in particular. I just kind of when I looked at it, I picked out the ones that I thought were really fantastic. So Ugin, Eye of the Storms. We're looking at a 7 mana, 7 loyalty, legendary planeswalker. His creature type is Ugin because he's the guy.
He is.
He
Ugin.
is. Ugin is. So let's start with just his static ability, because my lord.
I think planeswalkers with static abilities, first of all, are busted.
Yeah.
Numerically across the board, planeswalkers static, it's good.
Can you imagine as a player, you go, you sit down at your table, you're like, by the way, because I exist, I get to do this.
Yeah. Like I, as a player, have the static ability of winning on turn 2.
Yeah, like that's what it feels like when planeswalkers have static abilities.
Yeah,
it's wild. Okay, let's talk about the static ability because it is absolutely bonkers. So when you cast this spell, exile up to 1 target permanent that's 1 or more colors. Okay. So he comes in immediately. Something's gone. This is not a tuck it under Ugin. It's not an exile until he leaves. This is
Just a
gone.
built-in swords to plowshares.
Yeah,
Without you getting anything from it. Congratulations, your creature is just gone.
Yeah, it's just gone. Okay. Next piece. Next piece. Whenever you cast a colorless spell, exile up to one target permanent that's one or more colors. Literally, they printed this and was like, Ugin hates everything that has color.
Yeah.
He just wants to be colorless. And the most wild part, in his casting cost, it is not colorless mana. It is generic mana, right? It just absolutely wild. Absolutely wild.
Broken. And I mean, we haven't even gotten into his loyalty hits yet,
Yeah.
which are by themselves also ridiculous.
Yeah.
So +2 loyalty, gain 3 life, draw a card. For +2 loyalty,
Plus 2.
not +1, +2. He gives you a card and life.
And
2.
to put it on a scale, he starts at 7. His ult goes off at 11. So if you want to keep him around, that's 3 turns of that, and you're
good.
ulting. You're
You're
popping.
good. Yeah. His 0 mana, which also 0 mana abilities on Planeswalkers. I love them. They're wild. His 0 mana 0 loyalty ability is add 3 colorless.
Like, so at this point, we haven't gotten to his ult yet. His static acts as removal.
Yep.
So he's now
consistent removal.
Consistent removal. So
Yeah.
he's now got board control. Okay. His +2 and his 0 are both resource generation.
And you can pick which resource you want.
Yeah.
You don't have many lands out on the field. Pick the 0. He's probably not going anywhere anyway. He's got 7 loyalty.
Yeah. And then on top of that, that 0 giving you 3 colorless, it's probably going to let you play a colorless spell, right?
Which will, funnily enough, get rid of something. And then we get to his ultimate. -11. It's expensive, but not really when you're adding 2. And start at 7. Search your library for any number of colorless non-land cards, exile them, then shuffle. Until the end of turn, you may cast those cards without paying their mana cost. I just want to put this out there to people. Eldrazi exist.
Yeah.
They're colorless. You do that, you get every single Eldrazi in your deck on the battlefield without paying mana cost.
Well, what this actually is, when you look at this for a second, this is go get your entire deck except for your lands and play it in one turn and then win the game.
Yeah.
That's what it is. There's no other option.
No.
You ult, it will like, and if you're sitting at a 4-pod and somebody does this, everybody's just going to scoop immediately.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, you got this, you win, because you're spitting out 30 to 50 cards probably.
Not to mention your artifacts, any colorless anything you have. It's all going out.
Yeah.
I mean,
and then it's removing things.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you dump your
that's
board.
a good point.
You board wipe.
Yeah.
Like they can't
Yeah.
recover from it. It is just an auto win built into the card.
Just insane. I understand why they're selling for what, like 100 and is it more now? I don't even know what they're at anymore.
Let me go check, because this is like there are good cards and then there are cards that are like borderline. This is insanity.
Honestly, expect to see it on the ban list next year.
I mean,
like that's kind of where I'm at with it. Like
that's kind of what I feel as well. Except for you have 3 turns to try and deal with it.
That's true.
Right. So you have a little bit of options, and on top of that, he's a little bit expensive. So you have time to try and deal with it.
Yeah, I guess that is one big thing with the others, isn't it, on the ban list, that they're all cheap and instant.
Yeah. And
that's fair.
I mean, also, just as a little tidbit, there's a whole bunch of rumors that April 22nd, we're going to see unbans.
Ooh.
Right? I'm really praying for Dockside to get unbanned.
I know you are.
I just want
you play with it anyway, but I know
you're. I've taken him out of that deck because I feel bad for still playing with him. As beside the point, we're also looking at price. His lowest current running price in Canadian dollars, because we are in fact Canadian.
Congratulations, Canada.
Is
we live here.
His lowest mid cost is $81.
Lowest.
Yeah. His highest if we want to go there, which we don't really, but if we
Ever.
want to go there, his highest is $677.
Woof.
So let's first of all, if you pull one of these, congratulations, good job, you did it. You can retire.
I hate you.
Also, don't tell anybody you might get robbed.
It's true.
This is
Yeah.
I've won the lottery. I'm not telling anybody that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's exactly what
Yeah.
it is.
Wild card.
Just as a side note, by the way, Dark Side Extortionist is down to $27.
I've been actively looking and nobody has any. Everybody had the same idea as me. Is there's reprints or there's
Buy it.
unbanned coming. Yeah, but because it's gonna go back up to like 80 probably. Yeah,
I mean, we've gotten the Ugin out of our system.
that's yeah. Oh my lord.
Ugin is moving into a thing of the past in this podcast, but not a thing of the past in this game because he will be everywhere for the foreseeable future.
Yeah.
That said, next up, Elspeth Storm Slayer, more specifically. We've seen hundreds of Elspeths. Probably not actually.
Yeah,
They're
but
everywhere.
it
They're a
feels
dime
like
a dozen.
yeah. Elspeth every couple of sets gets a new version.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, that being said, this one is pretty funky. Planeswalker Elspeth. Because, it's Elspeth. If one or more tokens would be created under your control, twice that many of those tokens are created instead. That's its passive. Again, we're talking about a passive ability on a Planeswalker, which
You sit down at the table, you're like, by the way, because I'm playing at this table, my tokens are all doubled.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
Like that's what it feels like when they do that to a planeswalker.
Yeah. Not to mention its mana cost. It's 3 generic and 2 white pips. Guess what white does really well? Oh yeah, it's token gen. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure we went over that earlier when we talked about Elsha making tokens because she's in white.
Yeah. So I mean, great passive ability right off the hop. I've always loved the Elspeths, but this one just seems special. For +1 loyalty ability, create a 1/1 white soldier creature token. Guess what? That's actually 2 white
Yeah.
soldier tokens.
Yeah.
For 0 is put a 1/1 counter on each creature you control. Those creatures gain flying until your next turn. It's a 0 cup. Like
The application in a token deck, which this is guaranteed in, is incredible.
I'm looking at this and I'm like, how is that not the ultimate? And then last but not least, your ultimate, destroy target creature and opponent controls with mana value 3 or greater. After talking about it again, I mean, it feels a little bit underwhelming for an ultimate, but it's still essentially reoccurring removal. But realistically, you're not playing this card for that. You're playing it for the token doubling. You're playing it for the flying, and you're playing it to essentially say, yeah, this token deck that I'm playing, it's actually on steroids. Congratulations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree with you. Even with not bringing Ugin into it, I think that ult is really underwhelming.
Yeah.
I think 3 loyalty when she's only starting with 5, 3 loyalty for a destruction, not an exile.
Yeah.
So you can block it.
Yeah.
On something that's mana value 3 or greater.
I mean, there's lots out there that is mana value 3 or greater, and I can see a practical application for it, but ultimately speaking, like it just
they put a high cost with too much restriction on it.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Especially when you look at like even her 0 mana.
Yeah.
Right.
Which is just infinitely better.
It's just way better. So I agree with you. I feel like the 0 mana is more her ult, and the -3 is just kind of like, oh, we needed another ability to give her. I think it's kind of threw something.
Yeah, we needed something to knock down her loyalty, so here it is, I guess.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's
Moving on.
Great. Yeah.
Draco Genesis.
Draco Genesis is 6 generic and 2 red for an enchantment that says you may cast Dragon spells without paying their mana cost. Now, what if everything was a dragon? Like with a Maskwood Nexus.
And
now you
funnily enough, you're raining dragons that aren't actually dragons, but they're dragons.
I'm just going to play creatures for free now in a deck that is not Dragon Tribal.
Yeah.
Right? So I think Draco Genesis, it's strong on its own in a Dragon Tribal. It has the ability to get a significant power boost when combined with things like Maskwood Nexus.
Totally. I mean, with Tarkir Dragonstorm, there's like a million new dragons as well.
Yeah.
So fun fact, you build a 5-color dragon deck now, you've got infinitely more options to choose from than you did about a week ago.
Yeah.
Plus, you've got Draco Genesis to throw in there to make it so that they're coming out for free. Congratulations, you
Yeah.
have an incredible deck.
Yeah.
And my dinosaurs are upset with you.
Fair. That's true. That's very,
Yeah.
very fair.
Mistrise Village. This is a interesting card to be in the list, but I love it.
Yeah.
It's a land.
It's a land.
It is a blue land, more specifically. It enters tapped unless you control a mountain or a forest, which is weird that it requires a mountain or a forest for a blue land.
So
But
this is really cool. Just that part is a flavor win because they're trying to make sure that these go into teamer decks and fill
cool,
the
there you go.
lore.
Gotcha.
They're
Very
really
cool.
great. Really
Yep,
cool.
really cool idea. What we're really excited about here, though, is its alternate ability. It's not just land. It's also you can't counter me spell. You can play a blue and tap it, and the next spell you cast can't be countered. We were talking about that on one of the cards before. You know, not being able to counter a card as it comes out gives you huge advantage, especially in, funnily enough, green and red decks. Interesting
Yeah.
teamer.
Yeah.
But yeah, just not like, you know, you've set up a play, you have a card in hand. Let's say it's a huge win con piece for you, and you want to make sure it hits the board. Congratulations, you have a land that guarantees that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just a really cool idea on a land. Something
Yeah.
I don't think we've seen before.
No, I
Yeah.
don't think so either. And they came out, so they came out with 5 of these village cards, one for each color.
Right.
And some of them are okay. There's one of them where I'm like, this is trash and nobody's gonna play this. But this one, I would be very surprised if we didn't see this in more teamer decks and more 4 and 5 color decks.
Yeah.
Because it's like the
Honestly, in a blue
guarantees.
by itself, like not having a mountain or a forest in there is, it comes in
Yeah.
tapped. Oh no.
Yeah. Really. Like
Yeah.
the thing that I really love about it as well is it avoids counterspell wars.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It keeps you in that safe pocket. So now all you have to worry about for protection is once your thing lands, keeping it there.
Yeah.
It's a lot easier to keep a permanent on the board than it is to try and get the permanent on the board a lot of the time.
Especially if it's high value like this next card.
Yeah, exactly.
Crater Hoof Behemoth.
Greater Hoof Behemoth.
It's back.
It is back. This is a popular reprint. I debated not putting it on the list, but it's just been that card for so long that it had to go on the list. Like I saw this card when I first started playing, like almost a decade ago now. Right.
Yeah.
So for people who don't know, we'll go over it real quick. 5 mana, 3 green additional to that for 5/5 hasty beast. Now, don't let the idea of 8 mana for a 5/5 haste fool you. Normally that's under curve, but its ability when this creature enters, it kind of leaves out text there. It should say when this creature enters the battlefield, but that's fine. We kind of know what it says. When this creature enters, creatures you control gain trample and get +X until the end of turn, where X is the number of creatures you control. Now this is like an age-old green win con, because the thing that green wants to do is put creatures all over the board, everywhere. That they can get them.
Yeah.
And then you put this in, you're like, oh, by the way, my creatures are all getting +12/+12 in trample, and I swing out.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't bother doing the math. They're like, yeah, it checks out, you win, scoop up, let's shuffle up and play again.
Yeah.
Right.
Crater Hoof Behemoth is mono green's most staple win con, I think. Cool. Moving on to our next card, Voice of Victory. It is 1 generic, 1 white, for a human bard, 1/3, with Mobilize 2. We talked about Mobilize a little bit earlier. Kind of handy to have, but really where this comes in handy is the opponents can't cast spells during your turn. You know, stopping instants from taking out your Crater Hoof Behemoth.
Look at that.
Wow. Oh, and they can't play a fog either, so just putting that out there. It's nice to be able to play your turns knowing that everything you do is going to happen because nobody can do anything to stop you. And for 2 mana, I'm not mad at that at all.
Baitor, kin to all. This is the big nice guy dragon. So
yeah, he is.
Yeah, he kin to all. He's a big friendly dragon.
He's a friendly dude.
The funny thing is, every time I see his picture, I'm like, that does not look like a friendly dragon.
I kind of like it though.
Right? I do kind of like it. It's some cool art. 2 generic, white, black, and green for a 5/7 spirit dragon. Again, legendary creature with flying. Text is at the beginning of your end step, if creatures you control have a total toughness of 10 or greater, draw a card. In with green, this is not difficult to achieve. Okay. But
Honestly, in most decks, it's not
it's
super hard to get.
yeah.
And especially when you're starting with 7.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like Baitor lends himself to it, and then it just kind of goes there. But I mean, also Delta exists,
Yeah.
like
True.
like stuff like that.
Yeah.
Anywho, it continues. It doesn't end there. So then, if creatures you control have a total toughness 20 or greater, untap each creature you control. Okay, now keep in mind this beginning of end step. This is happening.
You swing out your entire board, and all of a sudden, everything has vigilance, basically.
Yes, pseudo vigilance is
yeah.
what this is, right?
Yeah.
A little bit harder to achieve because you're doing that total toughness 20 plus. And if you're swinging your board, you might be losing a little bit. So it might be a little bit more difficult to maintain. But again, you're dealing with green, so it's not difficult, right? You're dealing
Once
with
again, Galta exists.
yeah, right. On top of that, if you're working with the token side of white, you just
Yeah,
got a whole bunch.
exactly.
Like so,
You're
it's
fine.
achievable. And then if creatures you control have total toughness of 40 or greater, each opponent loses half their life rounded up. So what it is saying is, if you are clearly winning the game,
You win the game faster.
you win the game faster. Right? That is exactly what
Yeah.
that says. If you have toughness 40 or more collectively on your board, you are by no means losing the game in a regular game of Commander.
No.
Okay.
Maybe in a CEDH you might still be in
Yeah,
trouble.
yeah.
But in a standard, you're playing with 4 Joes, you're winning.
Yeah,
Congratulations, you're winning. And now you're actually winning more. Great card. Moving on. The Sib Sig Ceremony. 3 black mana to cast this guy.
Every time that I post this, guys, I'm going to put it in one of my decks. Every time I cast it, I'm going to be like the Sib Sig every time now.
Great. The Sib Sig Ceremony. 3 black for this guy. It's a legendary enchantment. This one is creature spells you cast cost 2 less to cast. So all your creature gets cost reduction. Avoid the taxes, tax fraud. Whenever a creature you control enters, if you cast it, destroy that creature, then create a 2/2 black zombie druid creature token. Yeah, I mean,
Gary exists.
Gary exists. Yeah. It's great for reanimator decks. Realistically, at the end of the day, that's kind of what it's there for. Static combos, super enabled. You cast your creature, it dies, you reanimate it, it dies again. You can do that basically endlessly.
Yeah, if you do it correct.
Yeah.
Teamer Battle Crier. Incredible. Like, I'm so excited about this card. You guys have no idea. So Teamer Battle Crier is a green, a blue, and a red for a 4/3 Orc Ranger. Okay. Baseline is kind of on par, right? 4/3 for 3 different colors is on par. Okay. During your turn, spells you cast cost 1 less to cast for each creature that is power 4 or greater. Green is involved.
Everything is 4 or greater.
Like everything, and this is not the only thing.
Apart from your mana dorks.
Well, yeah.
Which help you tap for more anyway.
Yeah, right. But green already does that if things are 4 or greater do things.
Yeah.
Right? There's a whole bunch of like enchantments and creatures that are like 4 or greater draw card, 4 or greater heal, right?
Yeah.
Things like that. Beamer is now saying on top of that, pay less. It's just tax fraud is always good, mana cheating is always good, but when you're adding it into synergy as well,
Yeah,
it's whole
when it fits this cleanly, it
Yeah.
just feels better.
Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
great way of putting it. It fits cleanly.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
fantastic.
Dragonfire Blade. 1 generic for an artifact piece of equipment. Love swords. Equipped creature gets +2/+2 and hexproof from monocolored. So this is interesting. This means that you can't pongify it. You can't beast within it. You can't really do anything removally.
You can't
Um,
swords. You can't
yeah.
murder. You like
Most removal is monocolored. There's removal that isn't, but most of it is monocolored. So basically, you just can't do anything.
Yeah.
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 The fun thing with this, the thing that I quite enjoy, is the equip cost. It's 4. It's expensive to equip this sword, unless you're equipping it on a multicolored spell creature. Costs 1 less for each color. Kind of fun, especially if you're playing, I don't know, a 4-color deck, and you have a 4-color creature that comes out. Interesting that that's now a free equip cost.
and 1 mana to cast.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like some of the best protection I think the format has seen so far, right?
Absolutely up there.
As long as being played in the correct place.
I would say this is, you wouldn't include this in anything under 3 colors.
I agree.
I think if you're playing a 2-color deck, this doesn't really have, like, I mean, it's still 3 mana for pretty good protection, but I don't think it has a place. But as soon as you hit that 3-color, 4-color creature, absolutely. There's no reason to not include this in almost every single one.
Call the Spirit Dragons. Cool. So it costs Wooburg, so 1 of each color, for an enchantment. Dragons you control have indestructible. There's more text. It doesn't need more text, but there's more text.
So let's put that with a Dracogenesis.
Yeah.
Because it's Wooburg,
Yeah.
so you can.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden you have free indestructible dragons.
Yeah.
Great.
Like,
love it.
It's expensive to do that, right? You're looking 11 mana, but
But
you're not paying for anything else. like
it really doesn't matter at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At the beginning of your upkeep, for each color, put a +1/+1 counter on a dragon you control of that color. If you put +1/+1 counters on 5 dragons this way, you win the game.
Okay, so let's run this back real quick. We're going to ignore Dracogenesis in this scenario, but let's just pretend like it's, on the board, you're playing free dragons. Great. Your dragons are indestructible. You have access to all 5 colors of dragons. There's like a million new dragons that came out with this set. So you have your pick of really whatever you want. Even if you just take the commander dragons out of the precons, that gives you access to all 5 colors. Congratulations. And then you just win.
And then you just win. Like, and it's beginning. Only thing that's made this not just instantly amazing is it happens at the beginning of your upkeep. Right.
So you have to do this. You have to be set. People have a turn to respond.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Now, that being said, with the correct combination of pieces, you can't just instant win, right? A Dracogenesis mixed with a Leyland of Anticipation, will do it.
Yep.
Right? You have that. You have these 3 pieces on the board. It comes around, somebody's end step, you spit out your dragons, upkeep comes around, you put your counters on, you're done.
I'm 95% sure there are cards that make you take a second upkeep as well.
Yeah.
Obika Splitter of Seconds comes out, and all of a sudden you're taking, more than 1 upkeep step in your turn. Lots of ways.
Yeah.
Lots of ways.
Yeah. And actually, that's a really good point, because maybe you have 3 dragons, but those 3 dragons cover all 5 colors, and you're doing 2 upkeeps, so now you have a chance to do it, because it's not, like, it doesn't specify that it's in one trigger
One
of it.
trigger
It's
of
just if you've done it
ones.
this way.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
Which also actually, this can extend multiple turns, now I think about it. Because again, it's not if you've done it multiple times this way or you've done it 5 times this way per turn. It's just if you've done it this way.
Yeah, you are correct.
You can chain this turn to turn if you're moving slowly.
Worthy cost. What a spell.
What a spell.
1 black for sorcery, so it can only be cast on your turn. I guess that's a negative.
It's a good way of bouncing the power that's about to happen.
Exactly, yeah. As an additional cost to cast this spell, sacrifice a creature. You're in black, you really don't care.
In fact, you might actually like that.
Yeah, exactly. You might have tokens that you're going to sacrifice that you really don't care about, or you might have something that when you sacrifice it, good things happen to you. Who knows?
Yeah.
Exile target creature or planeswalker. Cool. So this is Swords to Plowshares.
Better, actually.
Without any benefits for the person you're targeting. Really only benefits for you. The only downside is it's a sorcery. I guess. Oh no,
Yeah, like they tried to balance this,
really hard.
and I'll give them credit where credit's due. They mostly did a good job.
Yeah.
The 1 mana for a removal piece is on par for what a lot of the other colors can do, and
Yeah.
black was kind of missing it.
Yeah, I mean they've got things
Uh,
like murder and stuff, but
Yeah,
it just doesn't. It's not exile.
I mean,
That's kind of the key
and,
here.
and even like murder's a 3 mana spell,
Yeah,
right?
true.
Like
Yeah,
even if you go into like multicolor, you're going for like Assassin's Trophy where it's remove permanent. Like
Yeah.
there are options, but they were missing a 1 mana effective piece removal.
that's fair.
They tried to control it a little bit by making it a sorcery instead of an instant,
Yeah.
which is great. But then they immediately countered that by giving you a sack effect, which is what you want, right?
Yeah.
So now
Yeah.
you get removal. You get the ability to sack your own thing, which you probably want at 1 mana. And the only downside is it's sorcery.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
the,
I think having an exile in black as well is a nice new piece.
it was needed. It was
y-
sorely needed.
It's always been destroy,
Yeah.
which is fine. It does the job, but I mean,
Yeah.
there's something just extra satisfying about exiling something.
Yeah.
Mm.
Really. Yeah.
Oh, all right. Well,
Okay.
that is our list of kind of the top 12. That is
Yeah.
the top 12 that we think in the set.
Yeah.
I'm glad we got through all of those cards. It was a bit of a slog here on this one, guys. We're gonna get a little bit more fine-tuned in the next couple of episodes, I think. Here,
Maybe not. That was kind of fun.
I mean, I'm not mad about talking about fun cards. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll see how it goes, to be honest. But overall, at the end of the day, the important thing is that you make the deck about you and the game about the gathering. Have a good one.
have a great night, guys.